Welcome to today's session of 20 for 20 in 2020, which those of you that have been following this know that I plan to give interviews to 20 professionals, ask them 20 questions, and get this all done before the end of the year. And as you probably know by now, I'm Ella Newman, a trusted insurance advisor with the Norton Advisory Group, and I focus on effective solutions for estate planning, business succession, retirement, and long-term care planning using various insurance focuses so that you can achieve the goals you're hoping to achieve. Today, I have a very special guest speaker, Randi Levin, and she is a coach, a life strategist, a Reinvention collaborator and creator, and she has created this Recalibration Network also. I met Randi through networking a while back and have stayed in touch because I was so impressed with her. She's a keynote speaker, an author, and an amazing coach and an inspiration to all her clients, and I found her a personal inspiration as well. And so she's honored me to be participating today in these busy times and hopefully staying healthy. Everybody okay, Randi, in your home and
Yes,
with your situation? Luckily, we are too, but we are in very stressful times, and maybe some of the information we'll cover will be helpful to dealing with these stressful times. So I'm going to get us started on our 20 questions. So Randi, what is the primary focus of your practice?
So I work with founders and entrepreneurs and women in various stages of transitions in their life on redefining a little thing called legacy. I believe that legacy isn't something we leave behind. I believe that it's something that we empower and we choose and we live in the day we're in. So I help my clients and my audiences to redefine that legacy, to realign and redefine the concept of success so that we're making those bold choices and decisions, that we're empowering the moment to really do the things we say we want to do and to really be fulfilled in doing so. So I really work with people on that pivoting, on that recalibration, on discovering what's next from a moment-centric point of view.
That sounds very interesting in terms of where your focus is. And what would you say led you to this specific point in your career?
It's my reinvent, which is why this whole area is so important to me, is that I was in corporate for the better part of 20 years in fashion buying and merchandising, and I was a SAM. I was a stay-at-home mom after that. That was the next chapter. And I hit a big birthday a while back. Hit one since then too, but hit a big birthday a while back and was really thinking about what that next piece of life would look like. And everything came back to legacy. And I kept thinking, what's my legacy besides being my kid's mom or my husband's wife or, so-and-so's whatever. And I thought, well, wait a minute. I want to create that space. And I thought I was going back to school to get my MSW, and I started to research that, and coaching kept coming up. And I started to research coaching, and the next thing I knew, I was signing up to get certified in coaching. And so I am now in year 7 of my business, and it really was my pivot, my reinvent, and the sum total of all of the things that brought me here. Like I often say, Ella, that it's a sizzle reel, right? It's kind of that ongoing tape, if you would, of all those highlights, all those skill sets, all the things that you bring forward and you thread together. And so it was kind of the intersection of that moment that started my coaching practice.
Well, that's a great way to come to it. So you just answered my next question as well, which was how long you've been coaching. Have you developed a strong background of clients that you've been able to help? Have you worked with a number of people, and maybe define some of the types of people that you've been working with, or maybe certain areas that you don't particularly focus on.
So, that's an interesting question because I do so much writing and I do a lot of public speaking and keynoting and that type of thing. So literally have touched thousands and thousands and thousands of lives one way or the other. Some that you know about and many that you never really do, or you hear, down the road from somebody, which happens often. Someone will reach out or someone will say something in a gathering or somewhere that, I read your piece on whatever, or I tried your whatever. And you don't even know who or what the person is. But within my own sphere of clients, it's all over the place. I have clients who are on personal renewals, whether they're coming back into reconnecting to themselves after maybe taking care of an aging parent, or after a divorce, or after a bypass surgery. I have clients who are coming off the corporate track and stepping into what's next and building out a business, sometimes a coaching business, but some sort of startup, or taking that side hustle or idea forward in some way that has more meaning to them now, where it becomes a business. And very often before we can get to that, we got to get out of our own way a little bit. So that's a space that we really work on together, so that, what you're about to step into really has traction and really has a place to be, and you know why it is you're doing what you're doing. So you're not stepping all over yourself as you are. I'm not a business coach, but I do support women in business. So I like to tell my clients, or potential clients, that I coach you in 360 degrees, which means that it's the personal and the professional side of you. You're one entity. And very often people say, well, I need coaching on, okay. and that's what we'll do, except the agenda is always theirs. And what inevitably happens is somebody will contact me and they think they're building out this and whatever, and 3 sessions in, they're going to greet me with, and so this is what happened at dinner last night. And it will be in a complete turn. What affects you personally affects you professionally. What affects you professionally affects you personally, now more than ever.
True.
And the more that we connect to that as one entity, the easier everything else is. So to answer the question, I'm not the business coach. I'm not the one who's going to come in and write the business plan with you, but I am the one that's going to help you to set goals that you get. That makes sense. Because they're going to really resonate with you, and they're going to fire in all aspects of your life.
Well, that sounds like a very good approach. So in terms of the career experience you've had so far, what would you say are some of the key highlights that you've experienced in this process?
Currently, like in coaching,
and
or
you might, well, either one, but
well,
we're
as I
focusing
said
on your
before,
coaching.
as
Whichever
I
you
said
prefer.
before, I think that every one of us is a sizzle reel of our own experiences. So we all bring a variety of things, and we tend to not think about it that way. We tend to think, okay, we did this when we were in our 20s, or we did this out of school, and we did this when we got had kids, and then we discredit it, like that was that. Well, wait a minute. If you managed X, you manage people. You manage yourself every day, one way or the other, right? So I like to think that we take all of these skills and we play them forward. So I think that, a lot of the things that I reapply over and over again. And sometimes that's from a place of adversity too. So, I was a child of divorce. My parents divorced when I was in high school. And, there's upsides and downsides to everything, obviously a tough time. But the long-term upside of that is I was forced into making some adult decisions before I was actually an adult, 17, 18 years old, that maybe I, were a little powerful to make. But I got into decision-making mode. And it got me into it early, and I stuck with that. And so one of the things I support people with is decision making. It's the biggest power tool we have, and we don't realize it. Very often we give up those decisions. So I think that's probably one of the strongest skills that I personally take forward and use and practice and disseminate in everything that I do right now.
Mhm. Well, that makes sense. That certainly does. So you've actually covered the next concept, which was the types of clients that you tend to work with. You're zipping me through these questions here. Okay.
This is the speed version of the 20 questions.
That's okay. But you're giving me thorough, complete answers, which is a very effective way of doing it. So that's perfect. Let's say, what are some of the problems or issues you help your clients address? Can you think of maybe some specific situations that?
Yeah, I think there's a pretty consistent one that shows up over and over for everybody, and that's fear. So, we can call it whatever we want. We can have somebody say, hey, I need to manage my time better. Well, you're not managing your time because you're probably procrastinating, which is a sign of fear, or you're overwhelmed and you're not balancing things correctly. And that's a sign of fear. So fear shows up in lots of different ways. It's writing the end of a story that you haven't lived yet. So that is a big one. And like I said, it shows up in different ways for different people. So sometimes it's masked under other things. So once we can scratch the surface of that fear, we can get underneath that and actually start taking some action that makes sense and actually creates productivity toward the thing that you most want. Goal setting on all levels. I like to call it goal getting or goal leading. That's my terminology, goal leading. Because I think it's really important for us to be in charge of our goals, not for our goals to be dictating to us. And very often what I find is people set goals for themselves, and then it's like climbing up a mountain. And if you've set a goal that has meaning to you, you shouldn't feel like you're climbing up a mountain. You should feel like you're engaged in that goal, that it's happening for you and with you. You should feel fulfilled and energized by it. If that's not happening, then that's something we need to take a look at, because it should be. And very often people, like I said, they'll just set something and then it kind of goes aside and the fear gets in the way and life gets in the way. And then we feel like we failed because we didn't do the thing we said we were going to do. So very often it's important to think about how we want to lead that goal by being in action, by setting an intention and marrying a commitment to it every day.
Well, that sounds like an important focus, and it's sort of the concept of doing. If that goal is what you love, you want to move towards that goal, and then you're going to feel excited about that, obviously.
But you'd be surprised how many people don't do that. They set the goal, and then the goal is like this ominous thing, and then you hear over and over again, oh, well, I didn't really get those New Year's resolutions, or I'm not quite, or, oh, this was 2020. Yes, and they have to be flexible. You have to be able to move with them a little bit. So that's something to think about.
Well, since there are all kinds of coaches, how did you decide to become a transitional coach, which is sort of what you're focusing on?
Exactly. There are lots of different coaches. There are people coaching things you wouldn't believe have coaches in them. But it was a very easy decision for me because I was transitioning myself and had done so several times over in my life, and realized that you get to a certain age and you need to reconnect. You need to step into yourself a little bit. And I figured if I was doing that, other people were doing that as well. And this was an area of expertise because I was living it and was creating a business from nothing. I didn't go to business school. I didn't, learn how to become an entrepreneur. I just, got my certification and launched and ran with it. And, very often that is what it takes is having the courage to be able to step into something. So the transitional piece was just a natural offshoot of the whole coaching experience. Yeah.
Okay. So what do you love most about the coaching experience?
Supporting other women, really seeing somebody grow, seeing that light bulb go off, where that connection is happening. I often tell people also that they pay me to make them cry, which is not something most coaches will admit to, but it's true, because I'm not coaching your story per se. I'm coaching the emotions that are behind the story. That's the thing that's behind the other thing that's in the way. And if the emotion's in play, then that's where you're going to get traction. That's where you're going to get movement. So yeah, a little different answer there, right?
It's an interesting answer. It's sort of you love getting people to those various points, including crying.
Exactly. I'd love to see the motion, and
The emotion behind it.
to something that somebody understands, they value, or wants in their life.
Right.
That movement.
Mm-hmm. So, what would you say is the biggest challenge you have helped a client through?
I don't know what the biggest. I think there's. I don't know if that's a measurable question or not.
Probably not.
But I think that
maybe the most difficult challenge in some respects.
Yeah, there are so many different, and what's difficult for one person would be easy for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
What somebody seeks me out for may be something that's super easy and intuitive to the next person. So it's kind of a subjective answer.
Right.
I think that the biggest thing I can say about that is helping people to get out of their own way long enough to take action on the things that they want to do. And so, really helping understand the fears, really helping them to stay in motion, to stay in the moment, and to change the lens on how they're seeing things. So perspective is a huge piece of this whole equation. And when we change our perspective on anything, we change. So I think it's really creating a different lens. And depending on what it may be for any particular person, as I said, may be very different. And it could be big for you and small for somebody else. So I kind of want to stay away from the parameters of that, but just understanding that it's a perspective shift. And that's to me the joy of coaching and connecting with people.
Yeah, it's as Stephen Covey used to say, it's sort of a paradigm shift in some respects.
It totally is. Yeah.
Right. You have to really look at things in it from a different standpoint, right, and get a different perspective. So it's basically the next question is similar, and I think you've already addressed it, but you can add to this if you wish. It's sort of what is the biggest obstacle you overcome in your own life, maybe. You've mentioned some of that. Maybe you want to talk to that a little further.
I think, in order to be a good coach, you have to have experienced a few things too. So I did allude to being the child of divorce, pluses and minuses to that. It's tough to have that happen at any stage of the game, whether you're a child or a teenager or an adult. But there's also pluses in, where you dig deep and come through something and realize that, there were actually things that went into play that are strong suits of yours in that moment. And I also think that, for a lot of years, particularly as a stay-at-home mom, I think that I got in my own way. I was waiting for something for a very long time. Not sure what that was. I kept telling myself I was going to open my own business. I was waiting to have a partner. I don't know what that partner was going to be. And it was before I even imagined coaching, but I was going to have a partner in something. I don't know why this partner thing was so important, but I had to get over that. I had to get past that narrative. And that's essentially what I help other people to do, is get past that narrative, that story that we tell ourselves, so we can live the story we want to live, or the one that makes sense for us or aligns with us right now. So I think it's applying some of those same things. I've been there, I've done that, and I also are relatable because I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm the child of divorce. I've been in corporate.
Right.
I've been the stay-at-home mom. I had aging parent situations. I've created a business and started as a founder from nothing that wasn't there before. So we take each of these experiences and, weave them forward.
Definitely. And I think that you've definitely integrated all of that together to create the person you are that is enabling you to help others, which is terrific. Let's see. What would you expect a client to do as a follow-up to a coaching session with you?
That's a great question, because all of the sessions are grouped together in such a way that we get not only know, like, and trust, but momentum, and accountability being the key piece of that. And so after every session, whoever the client is has what I call homework. You know, you're not cracking the books and taking a test, but you are going to have some really concrete action steps, next steps to take. I mean, it could be anything from creating a listicle about something that we talked about. It could be a specific research on something. It could be connecting to 2 or 3 people that we talked about, or it could just be 2 or 3 really clear action steps between that session and the next session. And so not only are you accountable to yourself, but now you're accountable to me, which now makes the difference in that. So there's definitely, that's kind of where the magic happens. You know, the coaching's great, the light bulbs go off. What are you going to do with it? So that's the next phase of how this works.
Well, that's good, because it's important to have that accountability. And that's very meaningful. So what type of clients do you like to work with most?
Well, my sweet spot is women. I have male clients too, who I love. It's a very different experience. And usually midlife. I feel that, you know, it's a time that you've reinvented yourself probably at least once, if not more than once already. And things change, you know, not just a pandemic year like we're having, but jobs change. The things you like and don't like change. Family situations change. Kids get older. Marriages get longer or shorter, depending on who you are. You know, there's grandchildren. There's dogs. There's all kinds of things. Aging parents. There's all types of things that play on who we are. And I think that that midlife point and beyond is a time where you want to reconnect to yourself, and you want to really be purposeful in that next phase. For some people, it's the first time they've had time really to concentrate on themselves, or the resources to concentrate on themselves. So it's kind of a nice place. So that's typically, and it could be somebody who's in corporate, it could be somebody who's a founder, or somebody who's trying to figure out what that next role is.
Okay, very good. Now this was probably a more relevant question before we got into our current economic world, because the question was about offering online coaching. I think with our current pandemic, what else is there, right? Or how did you do it before and during and around this crisis?
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, I was virtual before this. It just makes the most sense and enables me to have clients who are based all over. So my coaching has always been virtual. Now there's just more of it. And I think that, you know, accessibility, people are understanding that you don't have to live geographically near someone to hire them for any service, really. You know, it's all done magically online. So it's actually a nice thing that's happened because of the pandemic. You know, even those of us who've been in the virtual space, it just seems more homey now. It seems more across the board that people really understand what that means, and they're less hesitant to have to meet somebody in person. And so I do everything through either Zoom or Skype, and it's super easy.
It's very true. We're doing it in our business too, even in financial services and other consulting ways. Everybody's using this as the new resource in our current environment.
Connected in a very different way. And I think, you know, it's here to stay. You know, even when we go back to in person in a more pronounced way, I still think this is going to grow. There are going to be additional platforms and ways to interact, and there already are things popping up. So it should be really interesting.
No, it's becoming the new normal. You know, we're getting into it. Let's see, what do you provide in as ways for a client to work with you? I mean, what are some of the avenues that you've created for them to participate with you?
Okay, so I have my packages, my coaching packages, of which I have 4 core programs that hit on a variety of different needs that a client may have, from how long they want to work together to how many things they want in that particular package, accountability. I have an attitudinal assessment that I offer that measures energy levels, how elated or how non-elated you may be in any given moment, and it's measured against how stressed you may be in that particular time. So I have all of those things in play, and I have Recalibration Network, which Ella, you are a crew member of, which is fabulous. Thank you.
Just terrific.
But it's a group I put together in 2020 in March when everything kind of started up, and it's a group through Facebook. It's called the Recalibration Network. And I do roughly 2 events a month at this point that I call recalibration circles of different types. And what makes them interesting, I believe, is that even though they're loosely content driven, it's under the genre of either a keyword or concept. I then shoot a question back out to the group, and it becomes very interactive, and everybody networks and says who they are and where they are, and people are doing business together within the group, and there's people in the group. Today's event, we had people from everywhere: Ohio, South Carolina, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, which is a lovely thing. So that's yet another way. That's a free platform, and available to everyone as well. So, yeah.
It's a wonderful group, and you do a great job with it. So thank you for making that happen for people. That's very special.
I do a lot of public speaking, whether I do webinars from time to time. I do special events with other organizations, panels that I'm on, podcasts. So there's a variety of different things, and people can find a lot of that on my website at randilevincoaching.com as well.
Right, exactly. And now, if you create an engagement with a client, how long might a typical coaching engagement last?
3+ or 6+ months. And I say it that way because they're kind of set up to last that long, and you typically work every other week. But there may be times where you want to work every week. There may be times due to our schedules that we push out 3 weeks. So that's why the 3+, 6+.
Right.
But there's bigger packages and smaller packages, and very often people do renew as well. I'd say 65%, maybe 70% of my business, I have renewals in, where people get to a point that they are at the end of their package and they love what's happened so far, and they want to sign on again, or they want to work on something else, or maybe they end and come back. So had all of that. So they're designed to be as short or as long as you want, but typically somewhere in the 3 to 6 month range.
Which makes sense. That's very clear. Now, we talked a little bit about the fact that you're accredited and your training. Can you elaborate a little bit about that, the training you've had to get to this?
There are a lot of people that call themselves coaches. The word is football. It is football. And not everybody's a coach. Some people have tons of business experience, and what they're typically doing, maybe more mentoring than coaching, but they're using the word interchangeably. And then there are those of us who go back to school and get certified in coaching, and a certification that's part of the ICF. International Coaching Federation, where you learn how to coach and you learn what the modalities of coaching are, and it's very question driven. So it's not just you showing up and saying, "Oh, do this and do that," and I think you should do this. It's really predicated and based on questions and visualization, and that lens I was talking about of switching that perspective, from a different vantage point. So you take that and it's, so anybody who's hiring a coach, whether it's me or somebody else, you should always be looking to see, what's someone's background, did they get certified in coaching, where are they getting this from? Are they simply calling themselves a coach? And what does that mean? And really you should look for fit. Do you think you can know, like, and trust this person, or do you already know, like, and trust this person? And does it seem like a good fit? Does it seem like somebody who you think will empower you and inspire you and dig deep on things? So yeah.
Well, that makes sense. What skills and experiences outside of training do you integrate into your practice?
Well, I think we talked about a number of those. I think it's life experience.
Exactly.
It's experience. It's managing people experience. It's leadership. so much of what we do and how we make choices is about self-leadership. And so I think one of the things that I work on with people every day is about standing for something, standing in your own space, leading yourself. And that's from getting out of bed in the morning to what interchanges you're having with people, to what decisions you're making in your business, to putting yourself on your calendar first, to doing all these things that are decision driven. And, all of these skill sets, we just take them and we move them forward. And one of the real jewels, I think, of coaching is that we identify those skill sets. We identify values, we rewrite values, we take a look at, where that alignment is now, because very often we do things as we've always done them, but they don't make sense anymore. And that's where people get stuck. They're doing this, and it's because I've always done this. But, the world is that. Right. So if we do this and the world is that, you've got to spread the wings a little bit, and you've got to reconnect to and realign with what's making sense now. So, that's something I like to work with people on, but it's also something I bring to it because it's something I do every single day.
Well, that's great. You practice what you preach, and it's very, very important. So, in terms of a particular session, what would be the experience of a client at a particular session with you? So, what would that be sort of like? Maybe you can describe that.
Okay, so they're typically done, like I said, on Skype or Zoom. So we see each other. It's as if we're sitting in the same place, even though we could be thousands of miles apart. And every session is based on the agenda of the client, not based on my agenda. So what they're purchasing from me is not Randi's, 12 steps to whatever, because that would be me leading you. And what I want you to do is I want you to lead you. So I want to help you to lead you. So we want to meet you where you are, and the agenda is yours. And so if we start out and you're looking to, really get out of your own way about getting out of corporate, or you're trying to figure out next moves and goals for next year, or whatever may be happening, we go through that, but we move through it in a way that makes sense so that we're not locked into it. We talk about what we talk about, we end the session, you've got your homework, we come back in the next session. And I may throw out to you right away, okay, so where are we on those 3 action steps you said you're going to take? And you may answer me, and you may say something like, I'm nowhere on it because this is what was happening. And there may be an evolution of something. So we don't want to lock into Randi's 12 steps. We want to lock into what you need and where you need that support, which is going to be unique, Ella, to you versus somebody else who's working. It's not a one-size-fits-all, but every session is an hour long, and every session is I don't coach a story, I coach, like I said, the emotion behind the story. So, we are having dialogue, but we're looking for areas where we can move forward, areas where we can think differently, questions that I'll ask you that no one else is asking you, or you wouldn't even, ask yourself, let's say, so that it's empowering for things that you will hopefully think about, long after the sessions are gone. And I also like to tell people that, keep a dedicated notebook, whether it's a hard notebook, something online, whatever you prefer, but keep it together for every session, because coaching gives back long after the coaching sessions end. And you're going to, eventually leave me and go out into the world. And let's say months down the line, something comes up in your business or something comes up in your life, and you're like, oh my gosh, how do I want to react to this? Wait, did this same thing happen when I worked with Randi? And you're going to go back in those notes and you're like, what did I do? What did she say? What did we talk about? And it's going to, support you then as well. So, it's an ongoing process and something that keeps on firing and giving back to you, which is, I think, one of the really nice things about the whole coaching experience.
Right. It sounds like a gift to yourself that keeps on giving.
It is exactly that. It is a gift to yourself, And very often I'll have somebody, a potential client, say to me, well, let me go ask my husband. And I immediately intend to go up because We're coaching your husband. And even though I understand the idea and the value of monetary decision making, what we're really talking about is, what is it you want here? What is it you need here? What is it that's inspiring you, is resonating with you, with the things we discussed? Is this something you're going to invest in for yourself? It's not about anybody else. Coaching is a very specific to you gift to yourself. Kind of like the gym, but even more so, because it's inside. We're going inside. Right?
Exactly.
And we're looking to change something. And nobody else can check the box or flip the switch on that. You have to be able to do that. And you have to be able to want it. Because if you hire a coach and you don't want to do the work, and you don't want to show up for the sessions, and you don't want to do the homework in between, I don't come with pixie dust. No coach does.
I'm so surprised.
Hiring somebody who's going to be a guide and a partner with you. You're not hiring somebody who's going to sprinkle something on over the situation and somehow, supply the Band-Aids. We're looking to solve. We're not looking to put Band-Aids on things. So.
Well, I think that's a good, solid answer. I like that a lot, Randi. So, last question. Would you believe it? We're on the last question.
Have to do it.
What can you tell us about yourself that we cannot find on the internet?
Couple of things.
Okay.
Well, one thing that nobody would know, certainly on the internet, is that very often I will have someone say to me, I mean, very often, like hundreds and hundreds of people have said this to me, particularly over the past 10 years. Do you know you look like that actress? You know which actress I'm talking about?
I think I do, but I'll let you say it.
That's great.
Of course, of course.
I had a waiter one
I can imagine.
One time, who
very
did
similar.
not believe that I was not Meryl Streep. He
Right.
kept sitting around me with this silly look on his face after he had asked, and I said, "No, I'm not Meryl Streep. Wish I had her bank account and her fame, but whatever."
You should have given him your autograph anyway.
I know, that's what my kids say to do. But that's one of those fun facts that nobody would really realize unless they've said it to me, or
well, you look that way.
Happened, but it's a constant source of laughter in my personal circle, my family. Where we may be out before masks. Now nobody can see anybody.
Now nobody can tell. Right.
Together, and someone would come up to me and say, "You look like that actress," or they'd overhear somebody say to their spouse, "Doesn't she look like?" Do you think that's? Oh my God!
Absolutely. Well, that's nice. I did
not see it until I had the first couple hundred people tell me, and so yeah,
definitely. I think some of your style and your expressions are similar
and
to
you know
hers.
What? I think it's a wonderful, wonderful person for people to say you look like and resemble her. Mm-hmm. She's amazing, and
she is amazing.
Icon in the 20th. Right. Centuries.
Absolutely, definitely. So that's really cool. Well, this has been fantastic, Randi. I think we've learned a lot about you as a professional, as a person, and the kind of clients you work with and the way you work with them. And I think that is very, very meaningful. Now, if people want to get in touch with you, could you tell them what the best way to reach out to you would be?
Sure. So the best way is on my website at randilevincoaching.com. That's RandiLevin coaching.com. And everything's on there, all of my information, but you can also hit the Let's Talk tab, and it opens up to my calendar, and you can schedule a virtual coffee with me, which is always great. And I also have an offer for anybody who's listening to this who'd like to connect further. Mm-hmm. I have a do-it-yourself leadership challenge. It's free for those to join. And that's reachable at randilevincoaching.com/leadership, randilevincoaching.com/leadership. And I also invite everybody into our network, Ella, into the Recalibration Network, which you can just go into on Facebook and ask to join, and then you'll have access to the events as well in the announcements section, or you can Google the Recalibration Network and it will come up as well. So hope to see some people there.
Well, that's a wonderful way for us to reach out, and I definitely recommend that, and hope to see new people at that Recalibration Network next time. So I want to also mention in the beginning, I didn't get into the fact that there's some real changes taking place in the insurance business that I just want to make a point of. Because of the low interest rate environment and because of the results of the election, that we're very happy there's going to be a change and we're going to have Biden in there, but there's going to be a lot of change resulting from that that might require people to take a look at their insurance currently. If they own insurance or if they had some strategies they were planning, the actual insurance industry is going to be repricing products due to the low interest rates. There's some strategies that can be employed now that can be extremely effective in terms of estate planning and business succession, retirement, as I mentioned in the beginning. But you have to take a look at these things right now before the end of the year. And if you'd like me to do that, I can provide a complimentary session with you. You can reach me at ella@nortonadvisorygroup.com, or look at my website and look at Randi's website to find out more about the details of what we do and our backgrounds and all that information. And then I want you to show up at my next 20 for 20 in 2020. Keep following me with that. I'm going to post this video on LinkedIn and maybe other places, and Randi might do that as well. So in the meantime, we're coming up to Thanksgiving. I wish you all a healthy and happy Thanksgiving, and everybody stay safe. And I thank you for joining us today, and I appreciate your being here with us.